ready to do it. So hopefully we have time for a few rounds at the end of class. This month we're working transitions. So we're gonna work from our feet today, working through 2-on-1. Just my take on how I set up my 2-on-1, why I do it that way. Except there's getting into takedowns just like any other position. There's probably 100 different ways to set up every position, just depending upon where you're going. So, but we're gonna go through to my approach on 2-on-1, a couple options that I like to go to from there, and just work in that direction. So we're gonna get right into it. Working on our 2-on-1. I know everybody. Does anybody here not? Okay. I just want to, so I know exactly how much time to spend on. So we'll just start with what the 2-on-1. It's like I said, get the term from wrestling. Wrestlers, I mean, they're smart, but we also are pretty basic. It's 2-on-1. My two hands on one of, here's you Trey. My partner's one arm, so I'm using a basic 2-on-1. Sometimes you hear the term Russian tie. Basically what I'm doing is my two arms, my two hands on his one arm. Right? Pretty simple, pretty basic. 2-on-1. Right? So there's different ways to set that up. We're gonna start right away from our stance. Right? I like to keep my stance low, my elbows in, and my hands in tight. Right? Because my takedown, I know I've got to be in close. Right? To shoot a takedown or to attempt a takedown with a lot of distance between me and my partner usually doesn't work very well. All right? Especially if my partner's got any training at all. So I've got to work my way in, close that distance, and I don't want to get caught reaching my arms out, extending myself, just like when I'm on the mat and guard everything, right? I don't want to be reaching out, extending myself, getting over that center line. So I'm going to work in close, right? Keeping my elbows in, my hands tight. That way I can hand fight, right? Whether Trey comes towards my hands, he comes for collar ties, right? All in here I can stay compact. I can work, hand fight, right? Trying to get into that 2-on-1 position, right? Another thing to keep in mind in our stance, whichever leg you lead with, it doesn't matter, whichever one you're comfortable with. I want to primarily keep that side hand down. I don't want, if I'm going to reach with a hand, I want to extend the opposite one, right? Because if Trey's going to attack, he's probably going to attack the forward leg, right? So if I'm reaching here, just like opening a door for him to jump right in there, right? So I like to leave my lead leg, arm, and hand low. And if I'm going to reach, right, as I come forward, I'm going to reach with the other hand. Once I get in, now I may change and move, right? Because I've closed that distance, and I'm in control of my grips in the position now. So starting off, we'll probably just work into this 2-on-1 position. So our partner's going to get in their stance. I'm going to get in mine. I'm going to work forward. I want to reach with the opposite side arm, hand that from my lead leg, right? And then I'm going to switch that grip. Then I'm ready, and I'm going to change my angle right away. You can see I'm flipping my grip, so I'm palm, right? Palm in rather than palm up on top, right? That's just going to allow me, because I'm going to be pulling down on this grip, right? Just going to give me a stronger grip than going here. My first step is I want to get in close, catch that wrist with the opposite side hand. I'm going to change that grip, and I'm stepping at the same time, right? Closing that distance and creating an angle. All right, I like the 2-on-1 because it creates an angle right away. We know that we've got to create that angle some way, shape, or form. So just going into the 2-on-1 creates that angle for me. And two, I've started to think a lot about risk versus reward on my takedowns and really a lot of my positions, right? A lot of times we see those cool, the big moves or big takedowns where people are flying all over. A lot of times a person's putting themselves in a lot of risk to get that big reward. When it works, it's really freaking cool. But when it doesn't, a lot of times you end up in a bad position. So the 2-on-1, a lot of the things that we're going to work from here, there's not as much risk compared to the reward that I'll get from it, right? So the 2-on-1, if I get into my 2-on-1 position, right, and Trey starts to defend, turn into me, work away, if I lose my 2-on-1, I'm back in front, right, reset up, and go again. Versus a lot of times if I shoot, different things like that, it's a bigger risk to get in on that single leg, double leg, whatever. So I've started focusing a lot on risk versus reward in my positions, just to try to clean up some of those things, take some of those things that are, putting myself at a lot of risk. So that's another reason I've kind of started to like the 2-on-1 as well. So we're just, like I said, we're just gonna start, get with the partner, we're just gonna go through this a couple times so we all understand the 2-on-1 position before we build on it. Right, I'm reaching opposite side, then changing my grip as I step, and from here, right, I'm gonna put my head, right, I'm pinching my partner's shoulder between the side of my head and my own shoulder, right? So I'm pinching right here and clamping on this bicep, right above their elbow, right at the bicep, because I'm, just like the professor talks about all the time, I want to control this shoulder, right? I want to get in and control this shoulder, and then also, you can see my head position, right? My spine is straight, think about like a battering ram, right? All seen those old, you know, medieval movies where they're banging down the door to the castle, right? So think about, I want my spine and my head to be just like that, to be straight. And I'm gonna lean myself forward, because you can see how now Ray starts to torque Trey's head, his spine, right? And this is our 2-on-1 Russian tie position, right? So one more time real quick. Reaching with my opposite side for my lead leg, getting my grip, I'm stepping, switching that grip, sliding up onto the bicep, trapping that shoulder, getting that head position. And I'm pulling down with this grip and pushing with my head, right? Because that extends all of this right here through Trey, through my partner. That's gonna help, right? You're gonna feel that gets uncomfortable, helps me control that position, all right? So grab your partner, just work into that 4 or 5 times, switch, your partner does 4 or 5 times, and we'll keep going. 1, 2, 3.
Well, yeah, we do. Okay.
There's lots of different, like, there's lots of different ways to set this with your grip and different things, so. This one close.
Am I still getting to when that is
Stepping on.
or as long as they
You just don't want to step in front of me. You know what we're doing? Yeah,
your
because,
face?
yeah, really deep foot sweeps and stuff there.
Okay.
So like you were saying, just from the outside, good stance.
Like I said, there's, yeah,
I'm driving.
once, if you start to use the 2-on-1 position, you'll find different grips or different changes based upon other options that you may like, different or better. Nope, that's what I'm doing, so.
We just set it back there.
Lean over and pull it
That's
down.
something.
And see how that bends in over? Cross right your head, that right into like the cheek.
Like when we're like, we headed up there for a second.
Yeah.
Alright, everybody pause for just a second, and then I'm gonna cover one last little detail I kinda forgot to, give you just a couple more minutes to try that, and then we'll circle back up and keep going. So everybody looks pretty good, but when I'm stepping in here, alright, we get tempted to try to step behind this person, right, because the further if I get behind this person, I'm just gonna go behind them, okay? With this Russian tie, it's 2-on-1, I'm basically like at a 90-degree angle, right? Because as the further I start to go behind, you can see my own spine, you can see my spine start to twist, I'm having to reach my head around to get that position. And now I'm doing to myself what I wanna do to my partner, right? So I don't have to go very far, or not going behind that person, right? I get in close, changing that grip, right? So I can get my head position here, and step right in here, be in this position, right? If you're shorter than the person that you're going with, like Ryan, you're shorter than Marshall, right? I hang heavy on this so I can break that posture. Because if I let them stand up and I'm shorter, now I gotta get up on my toes, and I'm trying to reach, and that defeats the purpose of this too, right? I wanna use this to control this position, right? I can push, I can pull, work through here, okay? So just a couple more minutes, and then we'll circle back up. Just feel uncomfortable to your partner. Your ears should be red from your top of your partner's head. Yeah, there you go, John. Yep, your partner should be like, I don't really like that. The one you're working on, or let's circle back up. We're gonna keep going from there. Okay, so an easy, but first option, right, for a takedown from this position, right? You guys need to move around this way, or need to move around whatever. So I've got my 2-on-1, right? We've all dug a hole with a shovel, right? This motion right here, right? I'm gonna use that with my 2-on-1. I get into this position. I'm gonna do that same motion. I'm gonna take my partner's hand, and I'm gonna drive it right to the mat in front of me. Obviously, I cover, go behind, and work from there, right? This one's, like I said, we're gonna start, got one that's an ankle pick from here, but we're gonna work through a couple options that, like I said, I'm thinking that risk versus reward. All right, I get to this position, say I pull and Trey pulls back and they all lose it, right? I set back up, I'm back in front, right? Set my grip up, work again, right? The risk versus reward in this option isn't that much risk in my position. I'm not sacrificing myself a whole lot, putting myself in a really bad spot, to try to get a big takedown, right? If I can control my risk and my reward, sometimes we're in a spot, we gotta pull the trigger, we gotta try something, we do that. But if I can control the situation and keep my risk down and my reward high, that's a good option. So again, I'm in on my position, right? Stretching that partner out. I'm just taking that hand, just like I'm driving right to the mat. Cover, working behind, okay? So that one's pretty, everybody here's probably used a shovel at some point in time, so it's just that exact motion. Just using my weight, driving that hand to the mat. All right, let's try that a few times. 1, 2, 3. sometimes little simple things catch them off guard, they're not ready for it, they're expecting something big. I saw a couple pictures from yesterday, but I
Right. Great.
Great. Great.
Yes, sir. That's me too.
So, yeah, just like the rest of the fans, same size.
I got a lot of good stuff, right? I got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
So before
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
we want to sound.
Was your first grade?
I mean,
Yes, you have a turtle, like you set up like on here and then.
push.
You turn to you're using the top of your head. Go right to the
That is the top of my head right here.
stretches you out like that. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, the rest of the
Good girl, baby.
All right, finish the one you're working on, then let's circle back up. Let's kind of keep going through this. All right, before you get too far down the rabbit hole, does anybody have questions? I know we haven't got anything over too crazy, but if you're having trouble with your grip or hands or something like that.
Yeah, I ain't got to do nothing special, I just gotta get over it.
Yeah, and if you get into the 2-on-1, like I said, you can change your grips, there's so many different options on this 2-on-1. I know a really good wrestling coach down in the Houston area that could give us a 2-hour clinic on 2-on-1. He's really good, wrestling for the national team, really, really good dude. So there's, like I said, I'm just giving you my approach where I start, and like I said, it's just like anything, you get comfortable with it, you'll find your own stuff and build off of it, so. All right, so continuing on, right? We worked in on our 2-on-1. Right, we have our option where we can dig this way. Right, now from here we're gonna work. Sometimes we can just use our movement, right? I can move left, right, I can control this position, and I can simply go behind, right? I can work and simply go behind. Get behind this person, right? go behind, and then finish your takedown from there. A lot of times we overcomplicate things. We see something fancy on YouTube or Instagram, and we're like, oh, you know, and we forget that it's, you know,
That's not a,
it's a guy that does it professionally. It's crazy. So we don't have to overcomplicate things all the time. A lot of times just getting a person's momentum going in one direction, changing momentum, changing direction, I can get back to a takedown, right? One thing I do want to stress through this is keeping my wrist control, right? Even like our previous one where I drive that to the mat, right? I'm keeping all that pressure, right? All my weight is leaning forward on top of my partner's hand. Keeping that wrist control and coming behind, right? Same thing when I'm working up top and going behind. Right, I go in this direction, change direction, come behind, right, I have that wrist control. As you can see no matter what direction I go from here, whether I keep the wrist here, I like to switch, because now it just adds to that already got that crossbody angle now. So it just adds to that, but having control of that wrist, because if I let go of that and come here, right now he's got both hands to fight, and it's gonna make things that much harder. So I've got that wrist grip from the beginning. I'm gonna say this all the time. I like to get a hold of a grip in a position and use that grip all the way through. I don't have to let go and change my grip. There's that much less room for me to screw something up. So all the way from the beginning, this grip, whether I go there, I come behind, go here, right? Keeping that grip all the way through, right? So we're gonna work just a few times going behind, right? The focus, like I said, it's not a bunch of big fancy movements, so we can focus on those little things like keeping our grips, changing our grips, that kind of stuff, right? So when I'm in that 2-on-1, I've got to focus on circling, okay? Because this isn't going to work very good if I just try to drill behind. Trey's going to move. So when you're drilling this, take a couple steps to the side, get that partner moving, and then come behind, okay? Focus on transitioning, transferring that grip across here, and then going from there, okay? Make sense? All right, 1, 2, 3. Transitioning, I'm kind of doing my step, you see my head coming into position, and I'm switching that grip all. This is
I think that we can get all reps.
when you're don't be afraid to work through just a little bit. Kind of get your grip.
Okay, there we go. You can't just give it away, there's gotta be a fake sell.
Because you can go slow like that, 3, 4, 5, and every time you do it, right, it's just gonna get so faster. Yeah, so eventually it'll just be kind of one smooth movement. So in order to practice that, slow it down so you can reprocess it rather than it being, you know, trying to do, you know, let it feel slow, but let it then feel smooth.
Not the greatest plan, bro.
There was a little circle right here on the map. I want to follow this circle, like dragging around.
That's cool. I love that.
And then I change
Or just get the wrist twisted in the process.
Here you get a movement, you almost just stop and then you get that last step and you move right into the position. Don't help me. Alright, good. Alright, let's just turn and circle back up real quick. So you don't have to sit down, I'm just gonna kind of add on to it real quick. Right? So one detail I want to add before we add finishing this takedown to the mat, right? Think about when you're moving, think about a little circle, right? I don't know if you've ever seen a wrestling mat, but there's a little circle on the inside of it, there's a big circle around the outside, right? Think about that little circle, right? I want to be moving in a circular motion, and then I change direction around that circle, right? Versus, like if I'm trying to move laterally out away from this person, I've got a lot more ground to cover, but if I'm moving in a circular motion, okay, you're gonna find that person almost, they take that last step when you change direction, they almost move right into a position where you want them to be, right? So now I get back here, I'm gonna take this person to the mat, okay? Again, lots of different options from here. An easy one is, right, I'm working on keeping my hips below his hips. And just like I'm doing a squat, I'm just gonna elevate. I'm not trying to pick this person up, spike them on the mat, nothing like that. I just want their foot, the weight on this foot to get light, and I'm just gonna bump it and take them to the mat, okay? So I've changed direction, come around here, my hips are low, right? Just like doing a squat. I'm just gonna elevate, bump, take them to the mat, okay? Again, nothing fancy, but you can see it puts me in a good position once I hit the mat. On their hip, side control, got this underside wrist grip still, okay? Give me a lot of options to go from right there. So again, and then my 2-on-1, working in that circle, step behind. My hips are already low, just bring them in, up, off that foot, into the mat, right? I wanna stay, I'm covering that person's hips, right? Because I know jiu-jitsu, this person, they're gonna wanna try to turn to get back into some kind of guard position. If I leave a lot of space, Trey's gonna work himself back into a guard position, right? So when I come down to the mat, I wanna keep my hips closed, right? I had to bring my hips in so I could work that takedown. Just keep them there as I hit the mat. Now I can cover and try again. Puts me in a good position from there. Make sense? All right, keep working through it. Just add that finish in a couple times. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I know how to do that. I've seen it on Street Fighter. You're too young to remember that.
I'm like, you're having more and more.
Keep the opposite leg. Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm just
I used to be busy.
I'm just bringing the hips in, I'm just popping my hips up, and then just tapping this foot.
I didn't look behind us.
I just wanna get that, I'm just using my hips to
There's like your arms stretch.
Yep.
And you lose all your body strength. So it's really just-
Just like a quick little.
Yeah, I mean,
Just bring that light off that
you
foot,
gotta-
that way I get the whole thing.
everything's coming from the.
Yes, sir.
This way allows you to do your width movement, or keep your partner somebody else bigger, obviously I'm not, I mean, we're all close to the same size, and we could probably help each other, but somebody that's 50, 75 pounds bigger than me, I'm not gonna be able to, you know, just by using my hips, like that.
I'll look at the bad position to be in. You? I can fall back.
You can try to take them
So try that.
towards the arm that you're tracking.
That's the wrestling side of it. You know, consider it a lift. I don't want to kick it. I want to stick to it.
Because that way, the person can use
Just
that.
how I kind of follow it for a couple inches to really make sure it gets out from underneath it. Instead of like running into just like a beam and getting stuck in it. Lift, stick it, and then as you're lifting, you're just gracefully like paint your toes across the mat on the way down.
So there's nothing last year wasn't sure though, but.
This one's the only lift.
That's all I do.
Is that a little bit better?
He ain't bumping, coach. He ain't bumping at all.
Like I said, when I roll my hips in, that's what.
We see it order. I didn't get down to super coach. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, I felt that huge difference of following with you.
Way less effort. Way less effort.
Instead of just a straight squat thrust, I guess.
Yeah, just brings it back.
Yeah, that's what I was
You don't even have to lift that much, like, it's like the power. It's like as soon as it splits like that, it's just yeah, it's just real like, that was it. Yeah.
Gets in and then let it. Yep, there it goes, like that. Yep.
There we go.
Well, the hips are there for the kid one. Well, I don't know.
Let yourself go, it was right, you tried to catch.
You did three and then you changed over.
Which isn't bad. That's why I feel like, because you got her here and you like trying to slow everything down and stop it, so you're just like laying on the mat. I know, but I can tell you, if you go and you let that knee hit the mat, right, you're not gonna, I mean, they're gonna hit the mat, you're not gonna spike them off.
I'll go back to this. Back to his pocket for like 2 hours.
You're just trying to like, just get them off balance. Long time to do.
I definitely see how much weight plays.
All right, finish the one you're working on, and let's circle back up. Bring your hips in, hips in. There you go.
Down too, huh? Yeah, it didn't feel like it, did it?
All right, so just one little kind of detail on that, right? Most of us are rolling with somebody that's pretty similar in size to us, but finishing this, if I'm rolling with somebody that's bigger than me, whatever it is, 50, 75, 100 pounds bigger than me, obviously I'm not just gonna be able to squeeze around them and pick them up, right? I try to get underneath, right? I'm bringing my hips, that's be lower than my partner's hips, right? I'm using my hips just like a snatch, right? We get here, that explosive movement with our legs. That's what I've got to use my leg muscles, because my back, I'm not going to be strong enough to just pick somebody up like that. So that's bigger than me. But using my legs, right, like a snatch, and I'm just trying to lift that weight off of their leg just enough so I can bump that foot, right? So that's why I want to get those hips underneath. elevate, and bring down to the mat, right? So just a little detail to finish. Okay, so I've got one more, it's a little more to it. I'm gonna do an ankle pick from our 2-on-1 position, okay? Most of us, it's a, whatever, Uchimata or Jiu-Jitsu throw, right? We step, hip toss, hip throw, we step in here, right? Most of the time, this person to defend that, they step back with this foot, right? Because if they don't, I'm gonna hip toss all the way through. So I step in, they step out, this foot changes, just steps across, and I'm gonna hook the back side of their ankle. I let go with my wrist grip, but I'm keeping this one. Come down to the ankle, and I work forward, okay? Cover, depending upon how they hit the mat. I've got a couple different options here. Hop up, go to my knee slice. Have different options depending upon how they try to defend and turn into a guard position, okay? Again, we're in on our 2-on-1, okay? The position, I come through here to step, they step back, step through, catch the back side of the ankle, alright? I'm keeping this shoulder, okay? This is why this is all the way from the beginning, this position is important, okay? As you can see, I've got this tight, I can control this position. This is what I want, because I'm gonna have to let go of this wrist, okay? It's easy to kind of get lazy with this upper grip here when I have this one, because I can control their posture so good right here. But if I'm lazy with this, and I let go here, they're gonna posture up, right? So I've gotta keep good grip, right? I'm just pinching his shoulder between my front of my shoulder, my arm, right? Using the side of my head, right? Pinching on that shoulder. So I step through here, like I'm gonna try to hip toss, step through to catch that ankle, lower my level. Finish the takedown. Okay. So one more time. In on my 2-on-1. Step in here, back, ankle, up. Looking to finish my takedown. One more time. So this one's a couple more parts or pieces to it. I wanted to get something flashy to finish. Alright, and on my 2-on-1, right? I'm stepping in, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm basically, this person doesn't do anything, I'm gonna get them with just take that leg out, pull this through, and I go to the mat, right? But a lot of times the first option doesn't work. Because they see that coming, they step back. That foot goes from here, catches behind that ankle. Now I'm lowering my level, okay? Just keeping that shoulder, that ankle. Now I'm pulling that ankle and moving through, okay? On your ankle pick stuff, think about, I had a coach tell me this, think about pulling that ankle to you rather than trying to push that person over, right? I've changed my ankle pick stuff a lot, right? Versus if I was here, right? I'm just thinking about trying to push Trey forward, right? Not that that won't work, but it changes completely. I lower my level, I think about just pulling it. Then you have to push, right? So when you're finishing that ankle pick, think about pulling that ankle to you, really in any of your ankle pick positions. Think about pulling that ankle to you. It changed my ankle pick stuff a whole lot when I started doing that. So, good to go? All right, let's try that one. 1, 2, 3.
Do you not have to catch that front leg like on time so they don't move their second foot?
What do you mean exactly?
Like you're stepping to get them to step back and then they're catching. Do you not have to like think, I'm thinking that I'm gonna have to do this. Like stepping, I know some people may step back, but then some people may try to maybe trip my foot. That's what I'm worried about. So I can tell if like you really have to sell it to get them to step that way.
Yeah, I usually do like, you always see that little line on the
Yeah.
so you do have to do it. And I'll kind of,
Yeah, this is like something like.
Gotcha.
so yeah.
You're having to really bump it on that.
Yeah, I'm bumping it, because then too, if they kind of makes them do that and pull that leg back, And then if they don't, then they want to meet
Yeah.
that takes them a little
Or
bit.
you do something, then you want to.
Finish, yeah. But like I said, the times that I've gotten in, I haven't worked with anybody that was really big judo guys, so it could be.
I'll give you
But most of the time they see the like those curl up thing coming, and then they start stepping back already, because they kind of see that on you. And I'm okay with that, because my plan isn't to, use that before, it's to get them to move that foot down and transfer on to that beat. So most of the time, yeah, I just kind of really exaggerate that little pop, and they read that and start moving out of the way already.
I have my work too, though.
Remember, it's the wrist grip that one goes. I think you let the other one go. Here, good, feel good. And then straight up, snap. So you let go of your wrist grip right when you go for that. When I step and move that other side one, right, I go to this one, then you, but now I'm gonna change, now I need to change level. Right, when I change level, then I can keep, it's not really, you want to keep this all the way through till you get right here. Okay. And then take that, yeah.
It's like my go-to move.
And they're probably gonna.
Star.
It works out. All for everything. No, I'm not. Yeah, it's a little more tedious one than the other couple. Once you go down, I'm already off balance. Yeah, and the other person's off balance, you know, start going down there. My kick is when I come in and move this leg out of the way, I've changed that, because now all their weight is on the foot, and I keep that pressure, so I'm moving in.
Yeah. You're going down so easy. I mean, you're already in a bad spot.
I'm like, inside the position, right back here, so keep that forward pressure. I gotta play it through, but if I start to get behind the corner, now I'm losing that forward pressure. Now you can feel that pressure's not the same. See, even if
I can see it.
here too, the center of gravity is here, that foot, not that I can't make that work, but it's a whole lot different than if I'm here,
Think about,
my pressure is that forward. Now,
almost as if it's not,
Yeah, he had
bend it, which is not.
So, yeah.
But,
that's why I said,
wrapping it
this
around.
2-on-1, I don't wanna get, start to get.
This
Yeah, I feel
I
it.
start to get behind them.
Like trying to get here along with the other.
Door stop back there. I'm not just saying you're doing it.
Yes, sir.
And that'll make them, I'm calling back and then the tool's gonna jump in.
Don't forget that eight position. So everybody circle back up for just a minute. I'm gonna kind of go over, now that we're kind of starting to make sense of these little parts and pieces, right? So, all the way back to the beginning, right, I talked about kind of this 90-degree angle with my head position, right? This is why it's so important to not start to go behind, right? If I can get this far behind, I'm just gonna reach around, I'm gonna go behind, work from there, right? There's no sense in me, that's what's given to me, so I'm gonna go there, right? Because when I stay 90 degrees, right, this angle here, I'm not gonna come through. Because you can see as I lower my level, you can see Trey's center of gravity is already over top the outside of his foot. And that's what I want. Because if I'm just a little bit too far behind, right, and I do this same thing, you can see Trey's center of gravity is right here now. It's on the inside of his foot. And not that I can't finish it, but it's gonna be a lot harder, right? So that's why when I change this angle, you can see it just when I do this to here. all I've done is change my angle. And it shifts where Trey's center of gravity is, right? I want it on the outside of his foot. Because now it's heavy, everything's heavy on that foot's not going anywhere, and I can finish that. Versus if I'm just a little bit behind, and I do this, now I'm really having to, I can feel it, I'm gonna have to do a lot of pulling and pushing there. Versus if I'm just here. Okay, so we've still got a couple minutes left. Really focus on that angle, and I've gotta keep that head pressure all the way through this. I want this position right here, right? I can move all the way around through here. Okay? So I'm gonna keep all that contact and that head pressure as I'm working through this position. All right, let's keep working. 1, 2, 3. Focus on that head pressure. Right? I want it to be here. All right, your own ear should be red just from being having that so tight, because that changes everything, right? If I'm here versus if I'm here. Yes, sir. Can you be sure because it's pretty easy to turn back into me now, isn't it? Just turn here. Okay. That changes all of that. Yes, sir.
Well, that's the first step we're talking about that. It keeps you center of gravity.
Says to bring it all the way across.
That's the biggest part of it, is being able to recognize, okay, I did this, I got to do this.
I step back. Yeah. There you go.
Focus on lowering that level.
Just going straight for this angle.
Just lower your level.
You can step there.
See what I'm saying? Try to get shoulder grip here. Just that forward pressure, I'm going to lower that level.
Here you go.
Step back. Read.
Yeah, now you start to, as you reach that, right,
Yeah,
you can start to go over.
Yeah, I
But
just-
I'm saying, you still have that forward stretcher that I'm talking about. As you start to lower your level, see,
Here.
yeah, now I'm doing that forward. You see it already, you're losing that balance already. Try it again.
There you go. That's good, much better.
Headquarters up top, headquarters up top.
You pull it to you, there you go. Just wanna keep your- keep it there now, and you kind of-
Alright, finish the one you're working on, then you're brand new to that position, the first couple options we went through are great spots to start with on that 2-on-1. Not a lot of flashiness, but easy to remember, easy to practice, no matter who you're rolling with, right? You can practice those full speed. If they don't work, you can make them not work over and over and over again. If you're familiar with the 2-on-1, that last one gave you a little flashy a little bit, so. All right, so we don't have any questions, then we'll line up. Yeah.
Just one quick question. So if they don't step around, first you just take it straight from that?
So if with that last one, if they don't step, yeah, so there's a hip toss in here, right here, that I'm stepping through. Like I said, once you get more familiar with the position, I know I was just having you kind of step in and work there, but there's a judo throw here. I step in and I, you might catch that leg out, and then like I said, it elevates, takes them over. So, but most of the time, especially once you start to get more experience, that person, when I start to kind of have to, it's like a little shuffle step, crow hop kind of thing. You'll see a lot of the judo guys do, because they're bringing their hips in and we're going to change their hips. So I'll kind of over exaggerate that part a little bit, because I want them to see that coming. Because then I start to get here, and a lot of times they step already, then I can change that direction right here. And finish with that ankle stick. Good question. All right, let's line up. Let's do this.